Now, the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa is forging ahead with its planned national strike in the engineering sector on the 5th of October. The union says the strike will be indefinite until all their demands are met. For more on this, I'm joined now by NUMSA's spokesperson, Phakamile Hlubi-Majola. Good evening, and thank you very much for your time. You are, of course, calling for media to attend some meeting tomorrow detailing what is going to happen. This is literally one of the biggest components of South Africa's economy. It represents nearly 2% of the country's economic output and responsible for close to 190,000 jobs. It's a big deal, is it not?
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers, and thank you for having us on your show. Indeed, it is a big deal. This particular, the Metals Engineering and Industries Bargaining Council, which is where we've been negotiating this new wage deal, they represent approximately 430,000 workers in the sector. And we are calling for a national strike, and pardon me, that strike must happen on the 5th of October. And we expect that it will affect most engineering companies in the country.
What are the factors that have led to the salary talks collapse?
We've deadlocked with employer associations at the MEIBC. We are unable to find each other, and it's principally because of the fact that we have obviously placed demands on the table, which employers, in our view, have taken a very rigid position on. We have, for example, we've changed our position in terms of our wage demands. When we initially started talks, we were demanding 15% for the first year and a one-year agreement. We've accepted that it will be a multi-year agreement, and we've reduced the demand to 8% for the first year. And for the second year, we're asking for CPI plus 2% for the second and third year, as long as CPI and 2% are at 6%. But if they're less than 6%, then those talks must be reopened for negotiations. And primarily why we said this is because we feel very strongly that, particularly in this sector, this is a sector where thousands of workers are paid very, very low wages. Many of them are not being paid the minimum rate of 49 Rand per hour. And workers in this engineering sector have made many sacrifices in order to prop up the industry and support the industry during COVID. We feel that the offer that employers have put on the table does not take that into account.
Now, you've been, of course, issued with the certificate of non-resolution. And have you worked out the details around the picketing rules? Is this how systems go? Have you got the green light?
My understanding is that that process is underway. And most of those things, I'm sure, will have been finalized by the time we go on strike on the 5th of October. We will be having a press conference tomorrow where we will talk to the media in more detail about some of the activities we will be engaged in. The main event is going to be that on the first day of the strike, on the 5th, we will be having a march which will take place. So at the same time, regions have been encouraged in different companies where they work or where these companies are affiliated to MEIBC to participate in picketing action during the process of the strike. We've also, for example, been mobilizing and talking about also mobilizing members in secondary industries. If we feel that the strike is not effective, then we may even call for a secondary strike. But it is really important for us to do absolutely everything possible to make sure that workers in the sector are at least able to achieve some of the demands that they have made in relation to wage increases.
Yeah. A strike in a literally broken South African economy is the worst case scenario by any measure, really, if you look at it. The industry already complaining of depressed prices because of the cheap steel imports that are around in the country. So generally, this is not going to end up well.
We remain open for talks. We don't have to resort to strike action. Employers know that we want to talk, we want to negotiate, but at the same time, we can't accept what they've put on the table. And I think it's also important that your viewers must remember that workers understand better than anybody, especially our members, the full impact of the economic crisis that we're experiencing in this country. They've been feeling the full effects of a recession long before COVID even hits. So this is ultimately at the heart of the problem. The fact that last year, when COVID arrived on our shores, workers in engineering sector signed a standstill agreement to keep conditions as they were, and they agreed not to get an increase. The industry benefited from that standstill agreement. And instead of acknowledging or honoring or giving back to workers the way that workers made sacrifices for them, they insult us with an offer of 4%. And an offer of CPI plus 0.5% and CPI plus 1%, which they know very well will not be a meaningful increase for workers, particularly the lowest earners in this sector. Yeah. So we are urging them to come back to the table to negotiate. If it is in their interests to save the economy, if they care about workers, they'll talk to us.
Now, some industry bodies have called on companies to beef up their security because of fears that the strike might turn violent. Is it going to go that far?
NUMSA is a trade union that follows the law, and there is absolutely no reason for people to think that the strike would go violent. We are going to adhere to all protocols, as we always do in all strike action.
Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us, speaking on behalf of NUMSA.